Chapter 246. Ningxi stared at the ring on the plate with her eyes wide open like a light bulb. She was completely stunned. Damn! Ning. She. You. This? Crow. Mouth. She actually hit the nail on the head. She had been on guard against it. She had always thought that the devil's way of picking up girls would be amazing and impossible to guard against. She had never expected that she would be caught in such an old-fashioned way. However, the final result was the same. It was still impossible to guard against. Was the great demon king doing the opposite on purpose? At this moment, what Ningxi regretted the most was that she hadn't swallowed the ring and destroyed the evidence. Under Ningxi's dull gaze, Lu Tingxiao drank up the last mouthful of wine in his glass, put down the glass, and looked at her with his deep eyes. I kept drinking because I was nervous. Ningxi. He was nervous? Who was the one who should be nervous? The coldness on Lu Tingxiao's face turned into a tipsy mist, but his dark eyes were clear. His cold voice was like raindrops falling into a cold pond. I never do things that I'm not sure about, but this time, I still did it. This may be the most impulsive thing I've ever done in my life, but I had no choice and no room for regret. Now, whether I advance or retreat, you've decided to stay away from me. It's just a matter of time. From the first day I met you, I've been planning this day. I've made countless plans, but you're more and more afraid of me. For you now, those plans can only scare you. So I chose the most traditional and gentle way. When Ningxi heard the last sentence, she was speechless. The most gentle way. Thank you for being so considerate, but I was still scared to the point of peeing. Lu Tingxiao paused, then raised his head and continued, no matter which way I choose, I'm not confident that I can move you completely. Today's plan is the safest way I can think of, but the probability of success is only 17%. Ningxi. Huh? What the hell was 17%? How in the world did he come up with this magical number? Cough that. Out of her wits, Ningxi subconsciously reached for the wine, only to find that it had been drunk by Lu Tingxiao, so she poured herself a glass of juice and gulped it down. After putting down the cup with a bang, Ningxi finally found her voice. Lu Tingxiao, are you practicing how to confess to the girl you like? It's pretty good. It's traditional yet classic, low-key yet doesn't lose its meaning, and the lines are sensational. Lu Tingxiao looked at the girl in front of him quietly. He pulled his chair back slightly and stood up. His long arm reached across the dining table and pinched her chin with his fingers. In the next second, he leaned forward and kissed her on the lips. Ningxi's voice stopped abruptly. 3 seconds later, before she could react, Lu Tingxiao pressed the back of her head and kissed her even more deeply. The room was so quiet that one could hear a pin drop. There was only the sound of rapid breathing, the slight friction between their clothes, and the sound of their tongues intertwining. The temperature in the air quietly rose. After a long time, the kiss finally ended. Lu Tingxiao slowly left her lips, but his broad palm was still on the back of her neck, and his forehead was gently pressed against hers. Chapter 247. Ningxi closed her eyes, her eyelashes trembling, her voice a little hoarse. Lu Tingxiao, why don't you listen to me? Not long ago, she had just taught him to maintain the status quo and not to act rashly. In the end, he just turned around and directly proposed to her. What a trap. Teacher leads the way, cultivation depends on oneself. Lu Tingxiao's tone was actually very reasonable. Teacher never taught you to be a hooligan. But this is the only way to let you know that the person I like is teacher. Then you're offending your superior. That must be because teacher is too cute. Lu Tingxiao pressed his forehead against hers, his large palm holding her slender fingers over his heart. His cold eyes at this moment were like a volcano at this moment. His tone was like a bewitching spell. Teacher, be with me. Everything I have is yours. Stop talking. Ningxi's mind was in a mess, especially when he called her teacher. There was a strange sense of shame. She tried to cover her ears, but it was still a step too late. Lu Tingxiao continued, Xiaobao is also yours. Ningxi's pupils suddenly contracted. Lu Tingxiao quietly observed her reaction. Seeing that she was staring at him with her eyes wide open, the corners of his mouth slightly curved up. His palm was like playing with a cat, gently pinching the sensitive, tender flesh on the back of her neck. What's the percentage now? Ningxi covered her face and subconsciously answered, half and half. The moment she finished speaking, she couldn't wait to bite off her tongue. Damn. Lu Tingxiao, you're too shameless. You even used Xiaobao. Xiaobao is my natural advantage. How can you say it's used? Then what about you using your beauty on me? Ningxi was filled with righteous indignation. She wanted to get rid of this position where she was completely under his control. But Lu Tingxiao clearly didn't use any force to hurt her, but no matter how she struggled, she couldn't get rid of him. I used it? Lu Tingxiao said innocently. Fine, 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 you're useless. I'm a lecher. Lu Tingxiao. Ningxi was in the midst of her anger when she suddenly felt that something was wrong. Ningxi paled as she held her stomach. My stomach hurts. What? Where does it hurt? Lu Tingxiao's expression immediately became serious. Stomach. I can't take it anymore. It's getting more and more painful. Ningxi's forehead was sweating. What's going on? Why did he suddenly have a stomachache? Is there something wrong with the dish? Ningxi coughed lightly. Well, I don't think so. I think maybe I'm bloated. I felt something wrong with my stomach when I drank a large glass of orange juice. Only then did Lu Tingxiao realize that she had almost finished all the dishes on the table, not to mention that she had drunk such a large glass of juice. He said angrily, Ningxi, are you an idiot? Don't you feel bloated after eating so much? Ningxi was even angrier than him. It's all because of you. I was so scared by you that I kept eating to calm myself down. You even drank all the wine by yourself and didn't leave a drop for me. I can only drink orange juice. How dare you scold me? After saying that, he clutched his stomach and howled even more miserably. Lu Tingxiao immediately calmed down and comforted her. It's my fault. I'll send you to the hospital right away. Chapter 248. Ningxi looked embarrassed. I don't think so. It's so embarrassing to go to the hospital in the middle of the night because you ate too much. Is your reputation more important than your health? Lu Tingxiao took out his wallet and cell phone and quickly picked her up by her waist. Ningxi immediately waved her hand. Lu Tingxiao, no. Change positions. You'd better help me walk slowly. This position is more uncomfortable. Lu Tingxiao was angry and distressed. He could only put her down and help her walk out carefully. When they arrived at the emergency room, Ningxi's clothes and hair were all wet with sweat. In addition, Ningxi had been covering her belly, and Lu Tingxiao looked as if the sky was about to collapse. A nurse immediately came up to help Ningxi. Are you going to give birth? Hurry, get on the trolley. Ningxi pulled up her mask to avoid being recognized. She then explained with a frown, No, sister nurse, I'm too full. The nurse was speechless for a second. She looked down at her belly and found that it was only slightly protruding. She didn't look like a pregnant woman at all. Please go to the left for gastric problems. Thank you. In the middle of the night, Ningxi's diagnosis finally came out after a lot of trouble. Acute gastritis caused by overeating and stress in a short period of time. Lu Tingxiao touched the girl's pale cheek on the hospital bed, his face full of heartache. Does it still hurt? Ningxi nodded bitterly. It hurts, but it's a little better than before. Lu Tingxiao, there's something else. What is it? Tell me. Ningxi hesitated for a moment and said awkwardly, My gums seem to have been scratched by the ring. I didn't feel it just now, but it hurts so much now. Lu Tingxiao touched his forehead and ruffled her hair, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Wait for me. I'll buy some medicine for you. Okay. After Lu Tingxiao left, Ningxi let out a long sigh of relief and then touched her own round belly. She didn't expect her stomach to be so strong at such a critical moment. But the feeling of being full was really uncomfortable. She didn't want to experience it a second time in her life. There was a period of time when she was too busy and did not eat on time for a long period of time. In the end, there was a time when she suddenly had acute gastritis in the middle of the night. The only difference was that at that time, she couldn't get a cab in the middle of the night. so she rode her motorcycle all the way to the hospital. She registered herself, got her medicine, and sat on the cold bench in the corridor to get in 4 drip. Lu Tingxiao soon returned. He took the medicine and sat down on the edge of the bed. Then, he opened the bottle and said with a serious expression, "This pill is for external application. Open your mouth, and I'll stick it on your wound." Ning Shi obediently opened her mouth, accidentally touched her tongue, and then she frowned. "Bitter. Bear with it for a while. Don't touch it." "Oh." After applying the medicine on her wound, Lu Tingxiao looked at her tenderly and murmured softly, "Teacher." Ning Shi was taken aback. It took her a while to realize that he was calling her. I'm sorry." Lu Tingxiao sighed in self-reproach, then picked up her hand and gently kissed the back of her hand. "It's all my fault for not being skilled enough to let you get hurt." Ning Shi's heart skipped a beat. Oh no. 60%. 61%. 62%. 63%. It's still increasing. Thump, thump, thump. How was it not skilled enough? He was clearly a top student. Chapter 249. Ning Shi shook her head and quickly ended the dangerous and ambiguous topic of teacher and student. Then she switched to the status of a small employee, raised her hand and said seriously, "Boss, I would like to apply for a period of time without interference." Lu Tingxiao thought for a while and agreed readily. "That's approved. How many days do you need?" Ning Shi looked at her fingers and asked weakly, "Well, can it be a year? I'll give you 7 days." Lu Tingxiao ignored her unreasonable request and made the decision. "Okay, 7 days it is. Can I stay in the apartment for the time being after I leave the hospital tomorrow? You just promised me no interference. Xiaobao is not at home these days, and I have to go to the company the day after tomorrow. It's better to stay in the apartment." Ning Shi tried to explain the reason. "Okay." Lu Tingxiao nodded without hesitation. Wow, so easy to persuade? She was not used to it when he suddenly stopped teasing her. Ning Shi narrowed her eyes and showed a sly expression. She seemed to have found the most effective way to deal with the devil. The trick of injuring oneself to gain sympathy? Was it because the doctor told her not to be too stressed? Sigh. It was because she cared so much that the trick of injuring oneself to gain sympathy was so effective. Thinking of this, the value in her heart suddenly rose to 80%. The next day, fortunately, Ning Shi's condition was not serious, and she was discharged from the hospital in the morning. Lu Tingxiao sent her to the apartment as promised. On the way, he went to the supermarket and helped her fill up the fridge. He also ordered takeout for her 3 meals a day and repeatedly reminded her of the recent food precautions. Sitting on the sofa, Ning Shi saw Lu Tingxiao busy checking the fridge and still standing there to see if he had missed anything. She couldn't help but cough lightly. "Lu Tingxiao, don't bother. I can take care of myself." Lu Tingxiao turned and walked to her. "I'm leaving." Although he said that, he still looked worried as if she were a 3-year-old who could not take care of herself at all. Ning Shi tried to calm down. "Okay, is there really nothing wrong with your body?" No, my stomach doesn't hurt at all. My body recovers very quickly." "Well, that's good." Lu Tingxiao's eyes darkened, and he nodded with satisfaction. Ning Shi. There was nothing wrong with what he said, but why did she feel like she was being teased? While she was lost in thought, Lu Tingxiao suddenly leaned toward her, but before he could get close, he straightened up and retreated. He reached out and rubbed her head. "I won't disturb you." Ning Shi, you. Already. Sutra. Fuck. Disturb. Yes. She finally understood that even if this guy didn't do anything, just his existence alone was a kind of interference. After seeing Lu Tingxiao off, Ning Shi finally relaxed completely. Hugging a pillow, she lay on the sofa in a daze, recalling everything that happened these days. In the end, things still came to this. Although he had a premonition and was prepared, when it really came to this, his mind still went blank and he was completely flustered. She gave herself 0 points for this performance. In fact, her initial plan was to say some decisive words to make Lu Tingxiao give up. However, when she looked at that face, she couldn't say a single word. Instead, her resolute heart began to waver. She was slowly considering changing what she thought was impossible. No wonder there were so many incapable rulers in ancient times. Her beauty was truly misleading. Chapter 250. The next morning, in Lin Gigi's office at Shengshi Entertainment. Sister Gigi, I'm not late, am I? Ningxi had rested in the apartment for a whole day yesterday, and her body had almost recovered, but she still looked a little haggard. For this reason, she was wearing a bold and fashionable dress today, which brightened her skin and made her look youthful and energetic. In front of the desk, Lin Gigi was working on some documents with her hair in a bun as usual. She looked at Ningxi and then raised her head. Don't be nervous. I don't have anything important to tell you today. I just want to show you around the company before we start filming tomorrow. Although you don't spend much time in the company, you still need to know the basic structure of the company. Okay, thank you, Sister Gigi. Let's go. Ningxi nodded and followed her. Under Lin Gigi's guidance, she learned about the various departments of the company and got to know the new colleagues. No matter what they thought, they were all polite to her on the surface. Even if they had a tacit understanding that this was a game between Shengshi and Starlight, and Ningxi was just a way for Shengshi to attack Starlight, it was also an indisputable fact that Shengshi was going to promote Ningxi. No one would look for trouble when Ningxi was in the limelight. TSK, this Ningxi is even more beautiful than in the photos. No wonder second young master likes her so much. I have a feeling that as long as her EQ is not too low, she will definitely be popular in the future. That's not necessarily true. Lung Manyun is finally gone. Do you think anyone can tolerate her popularity? Besides, can she get along with Lin Gigi? Doesn't Lin Gigi hate those who use their beauty to get to the top? The company was quite large. Ningxi followed Lin Gigi for more than an hour before they finished the tour. When they were about to go to some of the filming sites and recording studios, they bumped into someone in the corridor. Hey, isn't this our manager Lin? You finally came out? I thought you were ready to retire from the industry. The woman who spoke was in her 30s. She was dressed in sexy and fashionable clothes, with wavy hair and delicate makeup. She looked even prettier than a celebrity. She often appeared in newspapers and magazines, and Ningxi had seen her from afar several times during filming, so she immediately recognized her as Zhao Meixin. Facing Zhao Meixin's provocative words, Lin Gigi didn't even frown. She said expressionlessly, Sister Meixin, you are still working hard and we can't fall behind you. You. Zhao Meixin was furious. Ningxi tried hard not to laugh. She thought that Lin Gigi looked old-fashioned and serious, but she didn't expect that she had such a sharp tongue. Zhao Meixin clenched her teeth and coldly snorted, Lin Gigi, although I didn't think highly of you in the past, I have no choice but to admit that you do have some ability. You were able to raise Long Manyun's mediocre looks to such a height, but now, speaking of this, Zhao Meixin deliberately paused and glanced at Ningxi with a mean and disdainful look. After Long Manyun left, you found such a good-for-nothing vase except scandals and a pretty face? I remember you hate artists who rely on their looks the most. Why? Have you fallen too? Chapter 251. Ningxi narrowed her eyes when she heard this. This wasn't the first time she had heard from others that Lin Gigi hated artists like her. It was impossible to say that she didn't care about it at all. After all, she was going to fight with her in the future. If they didn't agree with each other from the start, how could they continue working together? Lin Gigi naturally noticed the flash of worry in Ningxi's eyes. She looked at Zhao Meixin and said unhurriedly, Sister Meixin seems to have some misunderstanding about me. As everyone knows, in this industry, being good-looking is a gift from God. It's something that others can't even dream of. Why should I hate it? What I hate is a vase that has nothing but looks but no substance. Everyone loves beauty. I think Sister Mei Xin, you should be able to understand this, right? Zhao Meixin's expression changed when she heard the last sentence. What did she mean by she could understand? She was clearly mocking her. She was originally an actress, but because she wasn't good-looking enough, she switched to being a manager. She paid attention to her image and often went for beauty treatments and microsurgery. Damn Lin Gigi. She didn't usually speak, but every time she did, she would stab at her. A dog that bites doesn't bark. You're so sure that she's not a vase? Zhao Meixin sneered. Yes or no, let the work speak for itself. Sister Meixin can't judge based on appearance. Lin Jiji walked past her and left. You. Zhao Meixin stomped her feet in anger. After a short confrontation, Ning Shi's gloominess was swept away, and she skipped happily behind Lin Jiji. Sister Jiji, you were so handsome just now. It gave me a sense of security. But don't worry, I'm definitely not a vase. Even if I'm a vase, it's at least a blue and white porcelain from the Qing dynasty. Beauty and capability coexist. Lin Jiji glanced at her and curled her lips slightly. It's not enough to just talk. The filming crew will start tomorrow. I'll accompany you then. Besides, it's not just me. The filming crew has also opened up for media visits. There will be a lot of reporters. I've already sent you the latest script and shooting plan. You should know that you have an important scene that day. It's a test of your acting skills. This is your first battle, so you must prepare well. In fact, during this period of time, she had studied Ning Shi's resume and some of her works, and found that this girl's acting skills were really good. She just had to wait for tomorrow's scene. Got it. I'll do my best. As Ning Shi spoke, she secretly sized up Lin Jiji, who seemed reliable no matter how she looked at it. The more she thought about it, the more regretful she felt. How could a woman like Sister Jiji fall for that unreliable golden retriever Jiang Mai? Because Lin Jiji had other things to do, Xiao Tao stayed with Ning Shi. Xiao Tao had a lively personality. She talked nonstop along the way, and Ning Shi heard a lot of gossip about the company from her. Sigh, now that Sister Manyun is gone, Su Yimo and Zhao Meixin will be the happiest. Now, they have no more competitors. Although Su Yimo was more famous than Sister Manyun, what did she act in? They were all rubbish commercial films. Although Sister Manyun's films were mostly artistic films, she had won so many international awards. Her status was simply crushing hers, all right? There was no other way. Who asked her to have such a strong backing? You're obviously not strong enough, but you're still shamelessly occupying the position of the #1 sister of the Golden Age. Is Su Yimo's backing very strong? Ning Shi asked. Of course. Don't you know, Sister Shi? Xiao Tao looked surprised. Then, she moved closer to her ear and said mysteriously, Su Yimo's backing is our boss Lu. Chapter 252. Of course. Sis Shi, don't you know? Xiao Tao looked surprised. Then, she moved closer to her ear and said mysteriously, Su Yimo's backer is our boss Lu. Boss Lu? Lu Jingli? Ning Shi's first reaction was Lu Jingli. It was clear that Lu Jingli had no integrity in her heart. Xiao Tao shook her head fiercely and pointed up with her finger. She meant Lu Jingli's superior. This time, Ning Shi was a little surprised. She raised her eyebrows. Lu Tingxiao? Xiao Tao nodded like a chick pecking rice. Then, she looked around nervously. Keep your voice down. As long as you know what's going on. Ning Shi touched her chin. But why hasn't there been any news of such explosive gossip? Who would dare to pull out the big boss to create hype? So, only the people inside our company know about this. Xiao Tao explained. I see. Before Ning Shi could ask for more details, Xiao Tao couldn't help but start gossiping. At first, Su Yimo was just a second or third tier person. There were many people more famous than her. In the end, I don't know how she hooked up with our big boss and gained his favor. All of a sudden, all of the company's resources were placed in front of her for her to choose from. She rose to the top like a rocket. The more Xiao Tao spoke, the angrier she became. She said indignantly, Our sis Manyun worked hard for 10 years to get to where she is today, but she was suppressed by her. It's so unfair. Ning Shi listened to Xiao Tao's story and knew that it must be true. She just didn't know what her relationship with Lu Tingxiao was. Although Xiao Tao didn't say it clearly, from her tone, it seemed like they had slept together. However, with Ning Shi's understanding of Lu Tingxiao, she naturally wouldn't completely believe Xiao Tao's gossip. Xiao Tao, who was talking nonstop, suddenly realized that it was inappropriate for her to be so arrogant. She hurriedly comforted her. Ahem, but Sis Shi, your backer is also very powerful. Our second young master personally poached you. Although Xiao Tao said that, There was actually a hint of disappointment in her tone. She was originally Long Manyun's assistant. This time, she was transferred to Ning Shi's side with Lin Jiji. In the past, when she was with Long Manyun, she was respected wherever she went. But compared to Long Manyun, Ning Shi was just a newcomer. As Ning Shi's assistant, she couldn't help but feel a little unbalanced when she thought that she would have to bow down to Su Yimo's agent and assistant in the future. How could Ning Shi not see the disappointment on Xiao Tao's face? However, Xiao Tao's reaction was understandable, so she didn't take it to heart. However, she couldn't just let Su Yimo's problem go. After all, this was a crucial 7 days for her, and any small detail could affect her decision. So Ning Shi didn't waste time guessing. She directly took out her mobile phone and sent a WeChat message to Lu Tingxiao. What is your relationship with Su Yimo? At the same time, at the Lu group, in the conference room, Lu Tingxiao was in the middle of a meeting. Suddenly, his phone rang. Lu Tingxiao continued to listen to his subordinate's report while he casually opened it. Then, all of his subordinates in the room saw a scene that was rarely seen in 1,000 years. Their boss, who almost never smiled in the company, actually looked at his phone, and his brows slowly relaxed. Then, he let out a low laugh. Chapter 253. The meeting is adjourned. Lu Tingxiao walked out of the conference room with his phone. Ning Shi was waiting for Lu Tingxiao's reply, but she didn't expect him to call her back directly, which startled her. Thus, Ning Shi informed Xiao Tao and quickly found an empty corner to answer the phone. Hello. I saw your message. Lu Tingxiao sounded like he was in a good mood. Ning Shi scratched the tiles on the wall with her nails. Oh. She didn't think much of it when she sent the message, but why did she feel that something was wrong now? Are you jealous? Lu Tingxiao's deep and hoarse voice came from the other end. Cough, cough, cough. Ning Shi coughed violently and said angrily, Who's jealous? I just thought it was necessary to understand the interpersonal relationships in the company, so I asked casually. Damn it. No wonder she felt that something was wrong. It really made people think that she was jealous. Since it's just a casual question, I refuse to answer, Lu Tingxiao said. Huh. Ning Shi was dumbfounded. She had never thought that Lu Tingxiao would be so childish. What do I have to do to make you tell me? Lu Tingxiao said. Remember my question? Which question? Was she jealous? Actually, when he heard Xiao Tao's ambiguous speculations and heard her linking Lu Tingxiao with another woman, he indeed felt a little uncomfortable in his heart. But how could she admit it? Ning Shi pursed her lips and said indifferently, If you don't want to answer, I'll just take it that you're having an affair with Su Yimo. Do you know that I can deduct your score from 0 to 0? Lu Tingxiao sighed and compromised. Don't worry, it's fine. You don't have to worry about her in the company. Then why do people say that you're Su Yimo's backer? Didn't you order people to give Su Yimo a lot of resources? Ning Shi didn't understand. I'm your backer, Lu Tingxiao replied. Ning Shi blushed and said seriously, Speak properly. Don't flirt with her. Lu Tingxiao chuckled. Ha! Don't laugh either. Lu Tingxiao finally stopped teasing her. He coughed lightly and replied, I did give the order, but I'm innocent. I gave the order because she saved Xiaobao's life. What? What happened to Xiaobao? Ning Shi immediately asked nervously. Previously, in order to let Xiaobao interact with more people, I tried to send him to school. In the end, he lost control of his emotions and ran out. He was almost hit by a car that didn't dodge in time. Fortunately, another car suddenly rushed out and knocked that car away, saving Xiaobao's life. We found out that the person in the car was Su Yimo. She rushed over because she was drunk and accidentally saved Xiaobao. Ning Shi was dumbfounded. Damn, I didn't know if Su Yimo or Xiaobao was lucky. So in order to repay him, you gave that order? She could understand why Lu Tingxiao wanted to repay her. Even if Su Yimo had saved Xiaobao by accident, she had still saved him. Yes. TSK, he really did save Xiaobao's life. Why didn't you marry me then? Lu Tingxiao's words instantly killed him. Do you think I'll devote myself to just anyone? Chapter 254. As if that wasn't enough, Lu Tingxiao mercilessly added. How many points do you have now? I can't tell you. Do you think I'm stupid? I'm hanging up. My assistant is still waiting for me. Ningxi quickly hung up. What a sad day. She really shouldn't have had any contact with Lu Tingxiao. On the other side, Lu Tingxiao had just called Ningxi. Before the smile on his face faded away, a big face suddenly came over and said in a resentful tone, Brother, tell me the truth. Are you hiding something from me? Lu Tingxiao didn't deny it and raised his eyebrows. Is it obvious? Lu Jingli was so shocked that he almost rolled on the ground. Oh, you're hiding something from me. I'm your brother, your most capable assistant, your sweetheart. You're hiding something from me. Aren't you very good at guessing? Hey, I'm just guessing. Lu Jingli paced back and forth in the room. 3 minutes later, he suddenly stopped and looked at him. The day before yesterday, you deliberately sent Xiaobao away. At that time, there were only 2 days before Ningxi started work. In order to catch up, she would be very busy, which meant that you didn't have much time left. So, you must have done something big in these 2 days. Something big. Is it a confession? Lu Tingxiao said. Go on. It seemed that he had guessed correctly. Lu Jingli's eyes lit up, and he continued to speculate. What about the result of the confession? It probably didn't work out. Otherwise, how could you still be in the company now? You must be in bed. Lu Tingxiao. Finally, Lu Jingli snapped his fingers and came to a conclusion in a confident tone. There is only one truth. You confessed. Little Cece didn't say yes, but she didn't reject you either. She's considering it, and the possibility of her giving you a positive answer is very high. That's why you're in such a good mood. Lu Tingxiao looked at his brother's spirited expression, and there was an imperceptible softness in the corner of his mouth. He was cold by nature and was not good at getting along with other people. Even his relationship with his biological parents was very weak. Only this younger brother of his was avoided and feared by others. Only this younger brother of his was always around him. His face was always cold, but he never cared, nor was he angry. He did not like to talk, so he could only guess his brother's thoughts. Moreover, he could accurately guess his brother's thoughts. He thought he was lucky enough. He didn't expect that he would meet Ningxi again. The next day, from midsummer to early autumn, the crew of Under the Heavens finally restarted filming after many twists and turns. Because of the change of the script, Ning Xuelua and Zhao Xizhou's scenes were cut a lot. Ning Xuelua and Ningxi originally had 3 scenes together, but now they were all deleted, which meant that Ningxi would not meet Ning Xuelua on the set in the following shooting process, which saved her a lot of trouble. She could finally concentrate on shooting. Today, they were going to shoot 2 important scenes between Ningxi and Jiang Mai. Not only did Ningxi's agent, Lin Jiji, come, but Jiang Mai's agent, Lei Ming, also came in person. It could be seen how important these 2 scenes were. Ningxi and Jiang Mai arrived almost at the same time. Hello, Senior Marshal Brother Jiang. Ningxi greeted him sweetly and cleverly changed the way she addressed him from Senior Jiang to Senior Marshal Brother Jiang. Hello, Junior Sister. Looking at Ningxi's obedient look, Jiang Mai shivered and got goosebumps. Then, he inadvertently glanced at Lin Jiji, who was standing beside Ningxi. Chapter 255. Lin Jiji was talking to Lei Ming and didn't notice Jiang Mai's gaze at all. Then she turned to Ningxi and said, Ningxi, I have something to discuss with Brother Ming. You and your senior brother have a good time. Okay, Sister Jiji. You can go now. After Ningxi waved her hand and sent Lin Ji away, she immediately turned into a little devil. She stared at Jiang Mai and said, Tut tut, golden hair, did you see that just now? I felt sad for Sister Jiji for so long after I knew she was your ex-girlfriend. I was worried that she would be embarrassed when you 2 met, but she didn't even look at you. So cool. I like Sister Jiji more and more. Jiang Mai gnashed his teeth and glared at her. Who told you that she was my ex-girlfriend? Ningxi blinked. Didn't you say it yourself? Get lost. I didn't say a word about it. You were the one who gossiped. It's your fault for being so easily misunderstood. Ningxi complained. Then she became more curious. Since she's not your ex-girlfriend, what's your relationship? Why are you so afraid of her? When was I afraid of her? Ning Xiaoxi, can you stop thinking like that? Jiang Mai was about to break down. In order to get information out of him, Ning Shi softened her voice and comforted him. Okay, I won't think too much. Tell me, what's going on? What else could it be? It's just that she used to be my manager. Jiang Mai flipped through the script and said impatiently. Ning Shi's eyes widened in surprise. No way. Sister Gigi used to be your manager? She used to be your manager? Jiang Mai rolled his eyes at her. What's wrong? Can't I? What kind of expression was that? Ning Shi shook her head and sighed. She's even more pitiful than being your ex-girlfriend. Everyone in the industry knew how wild Jiang Mai was. None of his assistants worked for more than a week. Lei Ming's agent hadn't been replaced for such a long time. Although Lei Ming was burly and strong and looked a little fierce, he had a very good character and was very patient. That was why he could stay with Jiang Mai for so long. After knowing that Lin Jiji and Jiang Mai didn't have that kind of relationship, Ning Shi was relieved. Otherwise, this triangle relationship would be really awkward. At this time, Xiao Tao directed someone to move a super luxurious recliner over. Sister Shi, you can sit here. In the crew, this kind of reclining chair could only be enjoyed by one woman, one man, one woman, or those actors with high status. Ning Shi used to squat in the corner and sit on a small stool, or at most a chair. She didn't expect that one day she would have such a treatment. Thank you, Xiao Tao. Ning Shi thanked her. Although Xiao Tao had always felt that it was a pity that Lung Manyun had left the industry and wasn't too satisfied with her current assignment, she was still quite diligent when it came to work. Do you want to rehearse? Ning Shi raised the script and asked, resolutely carrying out her manager's order. Right my ass. I didn't sleep at all last night. I need to catch up on sleep. Don't disturb me. Jiang Mai said and covered his face with the script and fell asleep. Ning Shi silently lit a candle for Lei Ming and then rejoiced for Lin Jiji. Fortunately, she had escaped from the abyss of suffering. Chapter 256. Jiang Mai kept his eyes closed even when he was putting on makeup. He slept until the shooting began. Director Gua had already asked everyone to get into position, but he was still sleeping. Ning Shi couldn't bear it anymore and kicked his chair. Only then did Jiang Mai slowly wake up. The scene they were going to shoot today was a fight scene on the battlefield. After Meng Changa's brother was killed by the incompetent concubine Xian, the little overlord grew up overnight. He put on armor and went to the battlefield, beginning a long military career. The general's mansion was in great changes, and Chang'an City was no longer the little overlord. After Meng Changa left, Sun Huanqing finally saw through his feelings. He followed Meng Changa to the battlefield and became a military doctor. Usually, the script was shot according to the setting and not according to the plot. Therefore, today's scene was directly skipped to 7 years later. Meng Changa had made great achievements in battle, even surpassing her father and brother. Under the instigation of the treacherous officials and concubine Xian, the incompetent emperor began to fear Meng Changa. He repeatedly asked her to hand over the military power and marry the incompetent 12th prince to restrain her. Meng Changa naturally refused to comply. So, in a war, she experienced the same experience as her brother. She was not defeated by the enemy, but was trapped by her own people. The enemy was in front of them, but they didn't have enough food and fodder, and the reinforcements didn't come. They were in a desperate situation. Finally, it was the last battle of life and death. On the set, all the staff were in position, and so were the visiting reporters. The most nervous one was director Gua Qisheng. If something went wrong this time, he would really kill himself. He was not worried about Ning Shi, but Jiang Mai was still sleeping when the shooting was about to start. He seemed to be in a bad state, which really worried him. Alas. Okay, all departments, get ready. Start. Ning Shi was discussing with her assistant Xiao Tao what to eat for lunch. The moment Gua Qisheng shouted, the look in her eyes changed. The battlefield was full of corpses, and there were less than 100 people left. Meng Changa was covered in blood. Her eyes were scarlet, and her face was full of murderous intent. She was like a walking weapon, ready to kill anything. Just as she was about to be ambushed from behind due to exhaustion, a thin man dressed in green suddenly rushed over and reminded her loudly, "Chang'e, be careful." With the man's warning, Meng Chang'e narrowly dodged the sneak attack. But when he saw who it was, he instantly flew into a rage and grabbed the man's collar with his blood-stained hand. "Damn it! Who allowed you to come here? Get lost." Sun Huanqing's face was resolute. "I'm not leaving. If we're going to die, let's die together." Meng Chang'e threw him away heavily, his face full of mockery and disdain. "I told you to get lost, so get lost. You're just a pretty boy who doesn't even have the strength to truss a chicken. What right do you have to die with me?" Sun Huanqing stood up, covered in dust. With a flick of his silver needle, he pierced a person's throat. Blood splattered all over his handsome and fair face. At this moment, his eyes did not have the compassion of a doctor, only murderous intent. "And now?" he asked, with a look of obstinate determination. Meng Chang'e turned his head away, his expression conflicted. At this moment, countless complex emotions flashed across Ningxi's face. Finally, she sighed heavily. Forget it. If you want to come, then come. But don't expect me to be distracted to protect you." Jiang Mai stretched out his hand and slowly wiped away the blood on Ningxi's face. His expression was gentle and affectionate. In this bloody battlefield full of gunpowder, he looked like a blooming white lotus. "Chang'e, I am your man. I should protect you." Chapter 257. Ka. He passed it in one take. The audience burst into thunderous applause, and the reporters clapped with all their might. This scene had both action scenes and emotional scenes. It was very complicated. No one had expected to pass it in one take, so they were both surprised and delighted. "Oh my God, Jiang Mai is so handsome. I thought his image would be ruined by playing a weak doctor. What a surprise." Yes. Jiang Mai's image has been subverted. I feel that his acting has improved tremendously this time. I don't care who the male lead is now. I just want to see Dr. Sun's scenes. Especially that last sentence, "I'm your man." It's simply too heartfelt, isn't it? So affectionate. I think so too. In the past, when Jiang Mai said such sensational lines to the female lead, I always felt that something was missing. Now I know it's feelings. Jiang Mai is acting with feelings this time. Guo Qixing was so excited that he almost cried. He hugged the assistant director. So touched. I didn't expect it to be so smooth. The reaction of the reporters was also very good. It was a good start. In the resting area, Jiang Mai snorted proudly. "What do you think? I told you there would be no problem. All of you only know how to worry for nothing." Ningxi snorted disdainfully. "That's because I'm the one acting with you. If it were someone else, you would be stuck at least 20 times. Do you believe it? Don't flatter yourself. If it were someone else, I would be stuck at most 19 times. Jiang Mai said carelessly. Of course, he was so carefree because he knew the other party was Ningxi. Did he think he was stupid? Ningxi's greatest ability was not only to keep the scene under control, but also to bring the other party into the scene and pass it in one take. Teske, Ning Xiaoxi, your skill is really perverted. You're the perverted one. While the two of them were making fun of each other, Lei Ming and Lin Jiji came in. Lei Ming was also very excited. He happily poured drinks and food for Jiang Mai. Not bad, Mai. You did a great job today. It was totally beyond my expectation. You have to keep it up. Seeing that Jiang Mai was praised, Ningxi was unhappy. She looked at Lin Jiji like a kid begging for candy. Sister Jiji, what about me? What about me? Although Lin Jiji was not as excited as Lei Ming, she looked quite satisfied. Very good, but don't let your guard down. Your highlight is the next round. Got it. Ningxi was already very satisfied and happy to get the 3 words, very good. Jiang Mai cast a sidelong glance at Lin Jiji, turned his head away, and whispered, I didn't expect that the tigress would become so gentle after a few years. I've never seen you so gentle to me before. At this moment, Lin Jiji finally looked at him and said expressionlessly, Put yourself in my shoes. If you were me at that time, Would you be gentle to yourself? Jiang Mai choked. Fuck. Was he really that much of a bastard back then? It seemed like he was quite a hoodlum, and he was still a hoodlum. Thinking about it carefully, if he were Lin Jiji, he would also want to beat himself up at this time. All the reporters outside were anxious to interview Ning Shi and Jiang Mai, but they were all stopped by the director, who said that there would be enough time for interviews after the shooting. Only then did everyone quiet down. Chapter 258. After a short break, the second scene began. Why was this scene the highlight of the show? Because it was the most torturous scene in the whole show, the climax of the whole show, and the turning point before Ming Chang'e entered the palace for revenge. This turning point was crucial, directly related to Ming Chang'e's character setting in the second half of the show and the audience's perception of Ming Chang'e. Due to the huge difference in strength between the two armies, Ming Chang'e still lost this battle. She watched as her assistant, who had risked his life for her, was beheaded and trampled on by the enemy. She watched as her beloved brother was beheaded and humiliated on the tip of a sword. She was separated from Sun Huanqing in the battle, and when she went to find him, she saw Sun Huanqing's heart being pierced by thousands of arrows. She didn't even have time to say goodbye. Huanqing, the last string in Ming Chang'e's heart, was completely broken. She was so angry that her eyes almost popped out of their sockets, and she rushed over. She sat on the ground, looking at the corpse in her arms that was full of sharp arrows, and let out a desperate scream. Ah! 2 streams of tears rolled down her blood-stained cheeks. Ning Shi's instantaneous explosive power was shocking, and everyone present was brought into the scene, their hearts wrenching. The next second, Ming Chang'e raised her sword and madly fought with the remaining enemies. Because Ming Chang'e's momentum was too fierce, although there were many enemies, they also became timid. In the end, almost 100 people were killed by her one by one. Ning Shi didn't use a martial arts substitute for this scene, but personally went into battle. Her emotions were on point, and her movements were very beautiful, showing a beautiful sense of heroism. The battle finally ended, and she was the only one left alive on the vast battlefield. The entire battlefield was covered in blood, layers of corpses, and tattered flags fluttered in the wind. Ming Chang'e was on the verge of collapse. He clutched his chest and knelt down on one knee, panting in exhaustion. After the great sorrow and anger, she slowly put her lover's head on her knees and wiped the dirt off his face, her expression emotionless. Ning Shi's silence during this period was for the purpose of interspersing the memories between the two of them in the subsequent editing. Ning Shi's expression was layered, so that even if there was no memory, this silence was not abrupt. Instead, the audience followed the subtle changes in her expression and recalled the bits and pieces since she met Sun Huanqing. A moment later, the memories came to an abrupt end. Ming Chang'e's empty eyes suddenly stared into the distance. That one glance seemed to have passed through the battlefield, through the snowy mountains and grasslands, through the vast desert, all the way to the flourishing capital city, and then leaped over the palace walls, to the hypocritical imperial court, to the luxurious imperial palace, to stare straight at the incapable emperor and the treacherous concubine in the tent. As if there was a gust of wind mixed with blood, she raised her chin and closed her eyes. Gradually, her blood-stained lips curled up bit by bit, like a peach blossom blooming in winter. Strange, yet beautiful. A smile that could topple a city. At this moment, the general who protected the country had died, and the one who was reborn was the demon concubine who brought disaster to the country and the people. The Ming family had been loyal for generations. Her father, 3 brothers, the youngest brother, the person she loved the most, all died on the battlefield. However, the emperor whom she was loyal to, the people whom she protected, forced her into a dead end step by step. This family, this country, this world, what else was worth protecting? In that case, let them all be destroyed. Chapter 259. Ning Shi only needed to use a dark smile to fully express all of this deep and heavy grief and hatred that could not be dispelled. This time, the scene was dead silent. Until the end of the shooting, no one dared to make a sound. They even breathed loudly, for fear of disturbing the sorrowful and beautiful soul. Many people's eyes were red, and they didn't even notice it. It wasn't until director Guo Qixing signaled that the shooting was over that everyone suddenly came to their senses and recovered from their grief. Oh my God. I actually cried watching this scene. Sob, 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 sob. I cried too. My heart was so heavy and depressed. Dr. Sun. My Dr. Sun is dead. Ningxi's acting skills are so awesome. Only now do I know that those highlights were just a drop in the bucket. And I finally understand why Guo Qixing insisted on using her despite the objections of the public. Why isn't Ningxi the female lead? Compared with Shangguaningrong, the female lead who talks about benevolence and morality, Meng Changa's character is much deeper. In the makeup room backstage, after removing her makeup, Ningxi's face was still full of grief and killing intent. Even Xiao Tao, who wanted to bring her lunch, didn't dare to get too close to her. Just then, Jiang Mai pushed the door open and walked in. He said calmly, "Leave the lunch here. Don't mind her. She'll be done soon." Okay. Xiao Tao put down the lunchbox and ran away in a hurry, still in a state of shock. Ningxi's appearance just now was really creepy, as if she had been possessed. About 5 minutes later, Ningxi got rid of the possessed state and woke up. He stretched his back, cracked his neck, and grumbled, "Fuck. I was too immersed in the role this time and almost couldn't get out." Jiang Mai squinted at her with a dark face. "Be content, okay? Others can't get out for months if they want to act like you. Some even go crazy. You came out in less than an hour. What else do you want?" Beast. Because he was in a dead state during the scene just now, he didn't know Ningxi's performance. Just now, he specially went to watch the replay and was shocked. He felt that Ningxi's love for him was as deep as the sea. "Hey, where's Sister Gigi? I haven't asked Gigi what she thinks of me," Ningxi asked anxiously. As soon as she finished speaking, Lin Gigi pushed the door open and came in. She took a look at the time on her watch and said in a hurry, "Ningxi, I'm going back to the company in the afternoon. Will you be okay by yourself?" You're leaving." Ningxi was a bit disappointed, "Because I'm no longer needed here," Lin Gigi said with a rare smile. Hearing this, Ningxi's spirits were lifted on the spot. This was undoubtedly the greatest affirmation and trust for her. "Then hurry up and do what you need to do. I will take care of myself and be obedient." "Okay. Contact me anytime if you need anything." "All right. I'll send you out." After Ningxi saw Lin Gigi off, Jiang Mai looked at her with disdain. "Look at your flattering face." Ningxi shot him a look of disdain. "Humph, you're just jealous that I'm close to Sister Gigi. Speaking of which, I should thank you. After experiencing a scumbag like you, Sister Gigi will cherish an obedient baby like me even more." Jiang Mai sneered and looked at her as if she was too naive and naive. "You can be complacent. You're going to suffer in the future. Do you think that woman is easy to deal with? Don't blame me for not reminding you when you're tortured to the point of crying for your parents." Chapter 260. The two dramas, which would have taken a whole day to finish, were finished in half a day because they were finished in one take. Therefore, there was plenty of time for the interview in the afternoon. Ningxi and Jiang Mai were very cooperative. They basically answered all the questions. The reporters also didn't ask too many sensitive topics. Seeing that the atmosphere was very good, the reporters began to ask some personal questions after the interview about the drama. A reporter said, "Mai, there's a question that people seem to ask every time. This time, I also want to ask you. What kind of girls do you like? Do you like girls like Meng Chang'e in real life?" Jiang Mai thought for a while with his chin in his hand. "I used to like cute and helpless girls. Now that I'm older, I think girls like Meng Chang'e are brave and real." After asking Jiang Mai, the reporter turned to Ningxi. "What about you, Ningxi? What kind of men do you like in real life? Or, what are your criteria for choosing a spouse? Can I have a chat with everyone?" Ningxi felt a headache because such a common question was very difficult for her. She didn't want to marry and had never thought about choosing a spouse. How could she have criteria? However, when the reporter asked this question, The figure that flashed across her mind was Ning. She shook her head and concentrated on answering the reporter's question. My criteria for choosing a spouse should be someone of the same age as me, with similar interests and like-minded. Fortunately, she had prepared for this question, so she answered according to the lines that she had prepared. Well, this answer was not perfunctory, but also reasonable. There should be nothing wrong with it. However, at this time, a female reporter next to her said excitedly, "So, Mai has at least two criteria. First, Mai is of the same age as you. Third, you are both actors and must be like-minded. As for the second criterion, although I'm not sure whether you have the same interests and hobbies, since these two criteria are the same, it's very likely that you have the same interests and hobbies." The corner of Ning Shi's mouth twitched and she pushed it back. Haha, in fact, there are a lot of people who fit these criteria. Most importantly, it depends on fate. Jiang Mai, who was standing beside them, also changed the topic with a joke. He said deliberately, "Don't listen to her explanation. Her explanation is just a cover-up. In fact, she is using me as her senior brother's standard for choosing a spouse." Ning Shi said, "Senior, do your fans know that you're so narcissistic?" 2 hours later, the interview ended. Although the two shocking scenes that they saw today couldn't be published because they couldn't be spoilers, they could still post some short clips and highlights. Moreover, the interview went very smoothly, and the content was also very rich. Ning Shi and Jiang Mai cooperated well with each other both in and out of the play. There was a lot of material that could be written and broadcast, so the reporters all returned with satisfaction. After the reporters left, Ning Shi stretched herself. "I'm so tired. Today's battle had finally come to an end. I'm going back to the hotel to sleep for a while." Jiang Mai glanced at her. "Hotel? Why are you staying in a hotel?" Ning Shi looked through the script and sighed. "You know how many scenes I have to play. There are many big night scenes. It's too exhausting to run back and forth, so I discussed with Sister Gigi and decided to stay with the crew during this period." Chapter 261. In the evening, at 8 Supreme Platinum Palace. Lu Tingxiao and Lu Jingli were the only two people at the big dining table. "Ah, Xiaobao is not here, and sister-in-law is not here. You are alone. Look at how considerate I am. I even specially ran to accompany you to eat." Lu Jingli sighed. He felt that the house was too deserted, so he ran to turn on the TV. Of course, it was the entertainment gossip channel. The TV was showing the press conference of Su Yimo's latest movie, Star Ocean. It was a grand scene with many stars. Su Yimo was wearing an ice blue Wucher Haute Couture silk evening gown. She exuded an ethereal aura and was truly worthy of the title of national goddess. As the boss of Shangshi, Lu Jingli frowned. There are so many resources and so many scripts for her to choose from. What did she choose? She's a goddess. She's almost a goddess. Can't she have a breakthrough? Oh, by the way, many people in the company think that Su Yimo has that kind of relationship with you. Sister-in-law might have heard about it. Have you explained it to her? Don't make a big misunderstanding." Lu Tingxiao looked calm.
Yes.
Huh. So efficient? Lu Jingli was wondering if this was what the phone call yesterday was about. Suddenly, the picture on the TV changed and Ning Shi's face appeared. Wow. Sister-in-law. Quick look. Lu Jingli immediately focused. Lu Tingxiao put down his chopsticks and looked at the TV screen with a serious expression. This morning, our frontline reporter came to visit the crew of Under the Heavens, which everyone has been paying close attention to recently. We filmed some interesting footage. After the introduction, the TV screen behind her switched to the big screen behind her. Ning Shi was holding a long spear and wearing blood-stained armor. She was glaring at Jiang Mai and Saya. "Don't expect me to be distracted to protect you." Jiang Mai smiled and reached out to wipe away the blood on Ning Shi's face. His eyes were full of love and affection. "Chang'e, I'm your man. I should protect you." Pooh, cough, cough, cough. Lu Jingli didn't expect to see such an exciting scene. He hurried to comfort his brother. "Brother, it's just an act. Don't take it seriously. Don't take it seriously." However, this was not the end. The scene quickly changed to another scene. Ning Shi was holding Jiang Mai, whose body was full of sharp arrows. Her eyes were filled with despair as she lost her beloved. Lu Jingli stole a glance at his brother's secretive face and laughed dryly. Sister-in-law's acting is really good. Your acting skills are really good. However, the TV seemed to have a grudge against him. As soon as he said this, it began to play a clip of the reporter's interview with Ning Shi. What about Ning Shi? What kind of man do you like in real life? In other words, what are your criteria for choosing a spouse? Can I have a chat with everyone? My criteria for choosing a partner should be someone of similar age to me, who shares my interests, and who shares the same ideals. Lu Jingli silently counted on his fingers. Their ages were similar. His older brother, Ning Shi, was 8 years old. There was a gap of nearly 3 generations. How could they be considered similar in age? Their interests were similar, but they were worlds apart. They were like-minded. The biggest reason why Ning Shi had refused his brother was that they had different goals. On the other hand, Jiang Mai met all 3 of Ning Shi's criteria. Chapter 262. At this moment, Lu Tingxiao was thinking about carrots. He remembered what Ning Shi had told him the other day. Everyone has their own preferences. Those who like carrots will never like carrots no matter how perfect they are. At that time, he was confident that Ning Shi had feelings for him. He thought it was just an excuse, so he didn't think too much about it. But now, he had to face it. Maybe he really was a carrot, not a carrot. Lu Jingli felt a chill down his spine when he saw his brother staring coldly at the carrots in front of him. Brother, are you okay? Why was he staring at the carrots with such a murderous look? Then Lu Tingxiao rang the bell for the butler expressionlessly. He asked him to remove the carrots and told him not to put them on the table again. Lu Jingli was speechless. Even if he was smart, he couldn't understand a man who was in love. At the same time, at the Junlai Hotel in the film city, Ning Shi was about to go to bed after putting on a facial mask. Someone rang the doorbell. Ning Shi was surprised to see the person outside. Jiang Mai? Why are you here? I'm with the crew. I'm staying upstairs. Ning Shi was speechless. I have too many scenes, so I have no choice. Why are you here? Can't I play more games to save time? Jiang Mai said matter-of-factly. Okay, you win. Ning Shi gave him a thumbs up and asked, So, why aren't you playing your game? Why are you here? Speaking of this, Jiang Mai's face turned gloomy. Fight my ass. The internet is so slow. I lost 5 games in a row and lost my ranking. Come on, let's go to the internet cafe. Hurry up. Ning Shi held her forehead. What game? I'm going to sleep. It's only 9 o'clock. Why are you sleeping? Are you going or not? Who was the one who risked his life to accompany you at 3 o'clock in the morning? It's only 9 o'clock and I can't even wake you up? Ha ha ha. Jiang Mai sneered, looking at her as if she was a heartless person. Sure enough, she would pay for what she had done. Ning Shi said helplessly, Okay, I'll go. Okay, let me change my clothes. 10 minutes later, the two of them changed into inconspicuous clothes and entered the internet cafe with masks on. Because this was the film city, celebrities often came to the internet cafe. Therefore, the boss was not surprised to see the two of them wearing masks in the middle of the night. He did not carefully compare their IDs and directly let them in. There were no more private rooms, so the two of them found a booth and sat down. Then, they turned on the computer. Ning Shi hadn't logged into the game for a long time and had forgotten her password. Golden Fur. What's my password? Jiang Mai rolled his eyes at her speechlessly. Then he walked over and directly entered a series of passwords for her. Thanks. Ning Shi pressed the enter key and logged in. As soon as she logged into the game, system notifications kept popping up. Ning Shi's face lit up when she saw those pop-up windows. Fuck. Tycoon. Why did you give me so much skin? And all of them are limited edition. Jiang Mai was furious. Bastard. How could you not see the birthday present I gave you? How many days had it been? Haven't you logged in before? No wonder he forgot the password. Ning Shi knew she was in the wrong. She scratched her head guiltily. I was busy. Jiang Mai's face was cold. It's all excuses. You just don't care. Chapter 263. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You know I'm forgetful. Thank you for the gift. I love it. I'll play with you all night. Okay? Play with me all night. You said it. I said it. I said it. I'll help you get back all the ranks you lost. Go. Ningxi risked her life to play with Jiang Mai for a whole night. Jiang Mai, who hadn't had a good time since he came back to China, finally had a good time. He won 10 games in a row in one night. He hadn't felt this good for a long time. Ningxi hadn't had a good time for a long time. She yawned and said, "Fortunately, we didn't have many scenes in the morning. We can catch up on sleep." Just when they went back to their room and fell asleep, they didn't know that there was a commotion outside. In the end, they were woken up by their agents and called to Lei Ming's room. "Isn't there an hour before work starts? Why are you disturbing my sleep so early in the morning?" Jiang Mai's hair was like a bird's nest, and his eyes were sleepy. Ningxi was not much better. She almost fell asleep again as soon as her butt touched the chair. Lin Jiji crossed her arms and paced back and forth in the room. Then she looked at them and asked in a serious tone, "What did you do last night?" "Nothing much." They were keenly aware that there was something wrong with her tone, so they shook their heads tacitly and said in unison. Lei Ming seemed to have expected this. He sighed helplessly and handed his cell phone to them. "What is this? Explain it to me." Ningxi rubbed her eyes. Isn't this last night? Wasn't this a picture of her playing games with Jiang Mai last night?" Jiang Mai suddenly sobered up. "Damn, this is just a back view. How could they recognize me when I'm wrapped up like this?" Therefore, Lei Ming turned to the next picture. This was not a back view, but a clear frontal view. Although Ningxi was wearing a mask, Jiang Mai's face was not. His whole face was clearly exposed. Jiang Mai scratched his head. I was too excited for a while and took off my mask, but I only took it off for less than 10 seconds. Ningxi blinked. Then I didn't expose myself, did I? Lin Jiji poked her earlobe. Your mole. The person in the photo looks like you, and this mole is too iconic. It's hard not to think of you. Ningxi said. Who is that? He has sharp eyes. Without Lu Tingxiao's reminder, she would have forgotten about this small detail. Jiang Mai's face was gloomy. When we went there, we used the staff's ID card. We didn't use our own. Who was so bored as to take these photos and post them on the internet? You even noticed a small mole like Ningxi? Lei Ming spread his hands and said, He's probably a fan of you. A fan of your CP. Ningxi widened her eyes. What the hell is a couple fan? He and I have a couple fan? At this moment, Lin Jiji looked very serious. Ningxi, I think you should remember that since the first day you came to the company, I've told you that you can't fall in love in your current situation. She had been careless this time. She should have noticed that the waning she and Jiang Mai got along with each other, including their tacit understanding when they were acting and facing reporters, and the fact that they played games together late at night, were definitely not new acquaintances. Especially the way Jiang Mai looked at Ning, she was very unusual. Chapter 264. No, absolutely not. Sister Jiji, you misunderstood me. We're not in love. Ningxi hurriedly waved her hand to deny it. Then she glared at Jiang Mai. Asshole, can you tell Lin Jiji about our relationship? Jiang Mai didn't speak, but gave her a casual look. Lin Jiji was Ningxi's agent. It was up to Ningxi to decide whether to tell her or not. Ningxi thought for a moment and had to tell the truth. Sister Jiji, it's like this. Senior brother Jiang and I met when we were studying abroad. At that time, we dated for a period of time, but it was like playing house. We broke up after a few days. Now we're just good friends. I know I should have told you about such an important thing in advance, but I misunderstood you as Jiang Mai's ex-girlfriend. I was afraid that it would make everyone feel awkward, so I didn't tell you. Lin Jiji was stunned and said in surprise, I'm Jiang Mai's ex-girlfriend? Who told you that? Then her eyes fell on Jiang Mai. Jiang Mai's face darkened. Why are you looking at me? I didn't tell you. She guessed it herself. Ningxi rolled her eyes at him. It's because you're behaving too strangely. Can you blame me for thinking too much? Seeing that they were about to quarrel again, Lin Jiji pinched between her eyebrows and sighed. Ning Shi, Jiang Mai and I are just an artiste and an ex-agent. You don't have to worry about it. As soon as she finished speaking, an imperceptible cold light flashed across Jiang Mai's eyes. Well, I know now. Since Lin Jiji said it herself, Ning Shi naturally believed her. So, let's talk about how to deal with this matter. After explaining the misunderstanding, Lin Jiji began to talk about business. Jiang Mai's fans didn't like you before, but that was because they were misled. Now their attitude has changed a lot, and there are even many fans of you on the internet. So, I discussed it with Brother Ming. When the time comes, you can be more ambiguous in your statements or questions from the reporters. You don't have to deny it too thoroughly. Just say that both of you are in the same company, have compatible personalities, admire each other, and are currently very good friends. Leave some room for ambiguous imagination. Ning Shi nodded obediently. Oh, okay. I'll listen to Sister Jiji. Jiang Mai held his chin and said lazily, I have no objection. Can I go back to sleep now? Ning Shi slapped him. Fill up my ass. Wake up. We're about to start work. Jiang Mai scratched his head impatiently. Which scene are we going to shoot this afternoon? Ning Shi glared at him. Kiss scene. Don't tell me that you haven't seen the script since it was revised. If I were Brother Ming, I would beat you 800 times a day. Anyway, Lin Jiji already knew their relationship, so Ning Shi didn't have to pretend to be respectful to Jiang Mai anymore. Hearing that, Jiang Mai said sarcastically, Humph. The higher-ups told the scriptwriter to delete all the kissing scenes and bed scenes on the grounds that there were too many underage audiences. How could there be any kissing scenes? They're almost all deleted, but didn't they leave some behind? One is the first kiss scene, and the other is the bed scene in the military camp. The kissing scene is the one that was forced to stop because of the hailstorm. The director said that the first scene can be used, and we just need to reshoot the kissing scene later. Oh, I see. Jiang Mai murmured. Why did his eyebrows keep twitching? He had an inexplicable, ominous premonition. Chapter 265. Lu Group, CEO's Office. Lu Tingxiao made an internal call to Lu Jingli to come over. Lu Jingli quickly ran over. Brother, you called for me? Have you prepared the materials for the meeting? Yes, here you are. Well, inform all the departments to have a meeting in half an hour. Oh, okay. Lu Jingli didn't leave immediately. He looked a little absent-minded. Lu Tingxiao raised his head and looked at him. What's wrong? Lu Jingli almost jumped up in fright. Nothing. Lu Tingxiao put down the pen in his hand and looked at him with penetrating eyes. Lu Jingli was like a soldier undergoing inspection. He stood ramrod straight and tried his best to remain calm. In fact, his guilty conscience was obvious at a glance. 5 seconds later, Lu Tingxiao finally looked away. Just when Lu Jingli finally breathed a sigh of relief, he saw Lu Tingxiao quickly typing on the computer keyboard and then pressing the enter key. Lu Jingli clearly saw that the letters Lu Tingxiao had pressed were NGXI. Oh no! His brother went to search for it himself. My brother, why are you so quick-witted? After Lu Tingxiao searched for the keywords, the latest and hot news about Ning Shi popped up on the internet in an instant. Jiang Mai and Ning Shi play games late at night, acting intimately, suspected to be in love with each other. Similar age, similar hobbies, like-minded. Jiangning's speed dating index is 100%. Both sides respond that they are just good friends. Fans cheer. Jiangning is named the fastest couple of the year. It was obvious that Lu Tingxiao had seen everything he shouldn't have seen. Lu Jingli closed his eyes and didn't dare to look at his brother's expression. Lu Tingxiao turned off the computer, pulled out a chair, and put on his coat. Jingli, prepare the car. What about the meeting? Postpone it until tomorrow. Then where are you going now? Lu Jingli swallowed his saliva and followed behind her. Inspection. Inspection? Could it be? At the same time, in the film city in the suburbs of Beijing. Because the scene of the first kiss at the Lantern Festival required a lot of manpower and money, they had tried their best to make it perfect. Ning Shi and Jiang Mai also performed very well, So the director decided to only shoot the second half of the scene to save money and time. In order for the actors to be in a better state, he deliberately sent away all the irrelevant personnel. Finally, everything was ready. Just as Guo Qixing was about to announce the start of filming, producer Wang Taihe suddenly rushed over and pulled Guo Qixing to assistant director Zhang Ruwei. Guo Qixing was surprised. The boss of Golden Age is here? Why so sudden? But it doesn't matter. Mu Yi and Ning Shi's acting skills are fine. If he wants to come, let him come. Wang Taihe slapped his thigh anxiously. Oh my great director, I wouldn't be so nervous if it was only the second young master. It was the big boss. The master of Lu Group, Guo Qixing, was dumbfounded. Who? Don't tell me you mean Lu Tingxiao? That's right. Lao Guo, come with me to welcome them. Zhang Ruwei, hurry up and explain to the staff and the two actors. Quick. Got it. I'll go right away. Everything was ready, but the shooting still hadn't started. Guo Qixing and Wang Taihe suddenly disappeared. Seeing Zhang Ruwei running over, Ning Shi immediately asked suspiciously, "What's wrong, assistant director?" Chapter 266. Who's coming? Zhang Mai couldn't help looking at Zhang Ruwei. His eyebrows were pounding. Zhang Ruwei explained to them in a hurry. The president of Lu Group, Lu Tingxiao, is coming for an inspection. The director is already there to welcome him. I don't think I need to tell you the importance of this scene, right? So you have to do your best today, understand? Ning Shi was stunned. Lu Tingxiao, vice director, did you make a mistake? It should be Lu Jingli, right? Yes. Lu Jingli is coming too. Go and get ready, Zhang Ruwei said and hurried off to tell the other staff. Ning Shi picked her ears. Golden Retriever, did I hear it wrong? Vice director said Lu Tingxiao was coming? You didn't hear it wrong. I heard it too. Jiang Mai said with a gloomy face. Damn, no wonder he had a bad feeling about this. So they were waiting for him here. Zhang Ruwei hurriedly cleared the place and dismissed all the non-essential staff. Then he quickly prepared chairs, drinks, and umbrellas. Soon, the people from the other side arrived. At the front was Lu Tingxiao, who was dressed in a suit and leather shoes. Lu Jingli followed behind him, looking left and right. The two of them were surrounded by the core members of the directing team. Wang Taihe was talking nonstop about the planning and progress of the production team. Guo Qixing warmly invited them to the best viewing spot. Boss Lu, second young master, please take a seat. You made the right choice to come today. Today's scene is wonderful. Really? What's the scene today? Lu Jingli threw a grape into his mouth and asked with interest. Guo Qixing talked nonstop about the plot for a long time. After the script was changed, there was only this kiss scene left. We are trying to achieve the most beautiful effect. Lu Jingli wiped his face. Damn, it's actually a kiss scene. And it seems to be the one on the day of the artificial rain. What luck. He didn't want to say anything else. Lu Tingxiao was expressionless from beginning to end. He was just sitting there, but he gave off a feeling that there was no one around him. It was as if he didn't pay any attention to anyone else. Guo Qixing was a little embarrassed. Fortunately, he had heard about this man's temper, so he didn't take it seriously. Both Ningxi and Mu Ye's acting skills are very good, and the most rare thing is that they cooperate well with each other. The two of them basically finished their scenes in one take. Guo Qixing thought to himself, it's not wrong for me to praise their company's artists, right? Lu Tingxiao sat on the chair and casually took a cup of tea from Lu Jingli. His voice was cold and distant as he said, Is that so? Yes, yes. I don't know if you've seen the highlights on the internet, but yesterday's two scenes were so difficult, but they were all done in one take. Guo Qixing felt a chill down his spine as he spoke. Lu Jingli coughed lightly and stopped the topic in time. All right, let's begin. Okay, let's start now. Guo Qixing went to prepare as if he had been granted amnesty. Lighting, props, cameras, all departments, get ready. Actors, get ready. The staff immediately got ready one by one, afraid that something would go wrong. The fucking big boss is coming to inspect in person. Lu Tingxiao was so busy that he didn't have time to manage the company's affairs, let alone inspect in person. This was unprecedented. He felt that he could brag about this in his WeChat moments for a long time. Chapter 267. When the scene was ready, the two leading actors walked over from the rest area. When Ning Shi, who was wearing a handsome red and black outfit, appeared, Guo Qixing didn't know if it was his own illusion, but Lu Tingxiao's empty eyes seemed to focus in an instant. Ning Shi glanced at Lu Jingli and Lu Tingxiao from afar. Lu Jingli immediately winked at her and pointed to his cell phone, implying that his brother knew everything. Ning Shi's gaze slowly shifted to Lu Tingxiao. The latter's gaze was locked onto her aggressively, like the eyes of a wild beast before the dry season. Hearing the clear sound of the script clerk hitting the board, Ning Shi suddenly came to her senses and hurriedly adjusted her mind to enter the play. Meng Chang'e quarreled with Sun Huanqing and ran away angrily. It was getting darker and darker, and Sun Huanqing was getting more and more anxious. In fact, Meng Chang'e had already found Sun Huanqing, but she didn't show up. Instead, she naughtily followed Sun Huanqing. Seeing that he was so anxious for her, her tough face showed a rare look of a little girl. Ning Shi played the innocent and shy look of a young girl in love very well. Finally, Meng Chang'e didn't want her doctor son to be so anxious. Just when Sun Huanqing was about to collapse, she suddenly jumped behind him and patted him on the shoulder. She said in a proud and happy tone, "Dr. Sun, are you looking for me?" Jiang Mai was stunned at first, and then his face was full of ecstasy. He excitedly held her in his arms. Chang'e, Lu Jingli's first reaction was not to continue watching the play, but to look at his brother. Then he was so scared that he peed himself. He hurriedly pulled his brother's fingers. Brother, be gentle. This cup is glass, not steel or titanium alloy. Remember, this is a play, just a play. But before he could even finish his words, crack. The teacup cracked open slightly. Lu Jingli looked up and saw Ning Shi slowly taking off the mask on her face. Her eyes were full of love as she looked at Jiang Mai. Then, she leaned over and slowly approached his lips. It's over. It's over. It's over. I didn't prepare anything this time. Lu Jingli covered his eyes with his hands, but he couldn't help peeping through the gap. 1 second passed, 2 seconds passed, 3 seconds passed, 4 seconds passed. What was going on? 5 seconds later, Ning Shi suddenly put her hand on her forehead and said, "Sorry, I'm not in the right state. Let's do it again." Ning Shi actually NG. All the staff, the 2 directors, and the producer were shocked. However, they could understand it. As expected, the boss aura was too strong. Even the spectators were under great pressure, let alone Ning Shi. "It's okay. Let's adjust our condition and try again," Guo Qixing comforted. Xiao Tao hurriedly went up to Ning Shi and handed her a bottle of mineral water. "Come on, Sister Shi." Ning Shi gulped down the whole bottle. Jiang Mai squinted at her and said, "I didn't expect you to have stage fright." Ning Shi said with a terrible expression, "Don't be sarcastic. It's not like you don't know how scary your uncle is. If you were to be stared at like that, let's see if you can still perform normally." Chapter 268. Soon, the second shoot began. Meng Chang'e patted his shoulder. "Dr. Sun, are you looking for me?" Sun Huanqing turned around and hugged him. "Chang'e," Guo Qixing said, "Cut." "Ning Shi, watch your expression. Why are you distracted?" Ning Shi said, "Sorry." The third shoot began. Meng Chang'e said, "Dr. Sun, are you looking for me?" Sun Huanqing said, "Chang'e." Guo Qixing said, "Cut." "Ning Shi, you stared at him for too long. You have to kiss him after 3 seconds. Understand?" Ning Shi said, "Okay." The fourth shoot, Guo Qixing said, "Ning Shi, your expression is too stiff. What are you looking at?" The fifth shoot, the sixth shoot. In the end, Ning Shi made 6 NGs in a row. Even Jiang Mai was about to break down. He paced back and forth in the lounge. "Damn, I'm going to have a heart attack. Are you going to kiss him or not? Hurry up, okay?" Ning Shi grabbed her hair. "Fuck, I'm going to have a heart attack. Can't you let your uncle go back? His eyes are like X-rays. Who the hell can kiss him? Jiang Mai sneered. He came for you. What can I do to make him go back? Ningxi threw away the wig on her head. Damn it. I'm so fucked up. Ahem. Hey, watch your image. Seeing that Ningxi was about to lose control, Jiang Mai reminded her speechlessly. He could tell that Ningxi was really under a lot of pressure. He had never seen her in such an agitated state. From another perspective, it could also be said that Lu Tingxiao's influence on her was huge. It was much bigger than what he had imagined. At least no one had ever been able to disturb her acting. At this time, Guo Qixing ran into the lounge with sweat all over his head. He walked up to Ningxi and said earnestly, Ningxi, what's wrong with you today? Are you too nervous because Lu Tingxiao is here? Calm down, calm down. You can't panic now. Ningxi lowered her head apologetically. I'm sorry, director. I'm making things difficult for you. Hey, it's okay. Every actor has a bad NG. Who knew the big boss would come today? We weren't prepared at all. Let alone you, who wouldn't be nervous at the scene. They were afraid that something might go wrong. Do you want to call your manager over? Guo Qixing suggested. Ningxi shook her head. No, don't bother Sister Gigi. I can do it. Please get ready. Are you sure? I'm sure. 3 minutes later, the 7th take began. Ningxi walked in front of the camera, gritted her teeth, and glared at Lu Tingxiao. The latter gently stirred the tea leaves with the lid of the cup, looking relaxed and satisfied. This bastard definitely did it on purpose. It was even more lethal than hailstones. It was a godly NG tool. Chang'e. Jiang Mai hugged Ningxi. Actually, he was also under a lot of pressure, okay? Every time he hugged Ningxi, he felt like his back was pierced by thousands of arrows. Ningxi took off the mask on her face and stared at the man affectionately for 3 seconds. Then she slowly moved closer to him. Up until now, everything had gone smoothly. However, just as she was about to succeed, the disturbing gaze behind her once again forced her out of character, causing her to be unable to kiss him no matter what. Damn it! Ningxi's eyes flashed. Suddenly, to everyone's surprise, she put on the mask again. In the next second, she suddenly covered Jiang Mai's lips with the mask on. Chapter 269. Under the covered bridge, the lanterns were shining brightly, and the breeze was blowing. The girl was kissing the young man with a mask on her face. This scene was even more beautiful and exciting than a direct kiss. Cut.
Pass.
Guo Qixing reacted in time and stopped her. Not bad, not bad. Ningxi, your way of dealing with it is even better. Guo Qixing praised, and the other staff all nodded in agreement. As long as you are satisfied, director. Ningxi forced a smile. Damn it. It was just a sweet kissing scene, not a heart-wrenching one. How could she be so exhausted? Damn it. The next second, her eyes involuntarily drifted in a certain direction. Opposite her, the producer was talking to Lu Tingxiao. Lu Tingxiao sat there quietly, like a dark oil painting in a dark corner of an old castle. No one knew how many years he had been isolated from the world. He was gloomy and cold, and his eyes were filled with heart-wrenching loneliness. Ningxi was burned by his gaze and hurriedly turned away. Sister Shi, where are you going? To the bathroom. Ningxi held her mobile phone and quickly sent Lu Jingli a WeChat message while walking. Second young master, what on earth does your brother want to do? Lu Jingli quickly replied to her. How would I know? Last night, he felt something was wrong when he saw the TV and your interview. This morning, he saw the gossip of you two playing games all night, so he directly canceled the meeting and came to inspect. Did he tell you what he wanted to do, or what plan he had? Ningxi asked hurriedly. After all, knowing oneself and knowing the enemy was the key to victory. You know my brother's temper. How could he tell me such things? Then, is there anything wrong with him? Think carefully. Something is wrong. There seems to be something. Last night, after watching TV, he suddenly stared at a plate of shredded carrots coldly. Later, he told the housekeeper not to serve this dish anymore. Don't you think it's strange? Even I, a smart person, can't figure out what his strange behavior means. Ning Shi immediately thought of the words, pulling out carrots. It seemed that Lu Tingxiao had completely misunderstood her relationship with Jiang Mai. Ning Shi thought for a moment and typed another line of words. How is your brother now? He should be fine, right? She had been forced to use all her intelligence to come up with the idea of kissing through the mask. What's so good about that? The moment you kissed me, I felt like I was in a 10,000-year-old ice cave 100,000 meters below the Arctic Circle. Did you make it? Oh yes, little Cece. Where are you? Be careful. My brother isn't in my sight at the moment, and I don't know where he went. I guess he's going to catch you. Be careful. The moment Ning Shi read the last words sent by Lu Jingli, a shadow suddenly fell over her head. Then, an oppressive pressure covered the sky and covered the earth. In the next second, she felt a grip around her waist, and in a moment of dizziness, she was pushed into the washroom at the side. With a loud bang, her back slammed heavily against the door. Before she could cry out in pain, her voice was swallowed up by the scorching and crazy aura. At that moment, there was only one thought left in Ning Shi's muddled mind due to the lack of oxygen. Fuck. Lu Jingli, you bastard. You did it on purpose, didn't you? Why didn't you just tell me the main point and remind me earlier? Chapter 270. In her eyes, Lu Tingxiao had always been a gentleman, strict, restrained, and polite. However, this aggressive and destructive kiss had subverted all her previous knowledge. His waist was in so much pain that it felt like it was about to snap. The taste of blood lingered in his mouth, and the root of his tongue was almost numb from being pulled. He felt like he was going to be swallowed alive. Ugh. Lu. Once she showed any signs of resistance, the other party's suppression became even more severe. He was like an arbitrary tyrant. The sudden pain in her neck made her frown. The man in front of her had completely lost his mind like a beast that had seen blood. He was so unfamiliar that it made her flustered. Ning Shi secretly pulled out the wooden hairpin on her head with one hand and quickly pointed the sharp end at the man's defenseless neck. Lu Tingxiao, if you don't calm down, don't blame me for helping you calm down. Lu Tingxiao's kiss stopped at her collarbone, but it was only for a moment. Then, as if he was provoking her, he kissed her lips again fearlessly. There was no sign of him stopping. You? Ning Shi felt a deep sense of helplessness in her heart. Does this guy have the ability to read minds? He knew that she couldn't hurt him, and he knew that she couldn't bear to let him go. She suddenly thought of a story she had read before. The man that a girl loved was cursed and turned into a beast, but even so, the girl didn't leave him. In order to prevent him from hurting the people in the village and being hunted down, she secretly raised him with her own flesh and blood. At that time, after reading the story, she felt that the girl was simply an idiot. But now, she had become that idiot. Lu Tingxiao's kiss lingered on her sensitive earlobe. Ning Shi finally got a chance to speak. She hurriedly said, Lu Tingxiao, have you forgotten what you promised me? Or are you going to go back on your word? Hearing her voice, the man seemed to have finally come to his senses. After a short pause, he answered in a hoarse voice, Inspection. Ning Shi was so angry that she almost laughed. Inspection? Who inspects like this? If you sit there, who can act properly without being disturbed? Professional, the man said again. Do you mean that I'm not professional? All fucking fine. I really wasn't very professional today, but next time, I definitely won't be able to do it again. Also, if that was an inspection, then what are you doing now? Ning Shi asked word by word. Lu Tingxiao held her tightly in his arms like a child who had just snatched his favorite toy from someone else, not saying a word. At this moment, Ning Shi's heart was in a mess. All the dark emotions that she had deliberately suppressed in her mind surged up at this moment, forcing her to face them and make a decision. After an unknown period of time, just as she was about to drown in the man's warm embrace, she finally came to her senses. She took a deep breath and said, Lu Tingxiao, you gave me 7 days. There's no need to wait for 7 days. I can tell you now. I don't want to hear it. Lu Tingxiao's expression tightened, and he immediately went to kiss her again, trying to stop what she was going to say next. A trace of helplessness flashed across Ningxi's face. She turned her head to avoid his lips. Lu Tingxiao, listen to me. Afraid that she would hesitate, Ningxi closed her eyes, looked at him, and said in one breath. Chapter 271. Lu Tingxiao, I've told you from the start that I already have someone I like. Thank you very much. Very. I like him very much. Although I can't be with him for some reason, he will always be in my heart. No one can replace him. There is no extra space. No matter how good and perfect that person is, he can't be with me. Do you understand? Hearing Ningxi's words, Lu Tingxiao's back stiffened. His eyes were full of ice and snow. He pinched her chin with his fingers. Liar. Ningxi, you're lying. Ningxi raised 2 fingers and looked at him with clear eyes. Then I swear, if I lie, I will never be famous. I will be struck by lightning, and I will be hit by a car when I go out. Shut up. Lu Tingxiao couldn't bear it anymore. He pushed the door open and rushed out. Hearing the footsteps of the man leaving, Ningxi almost collapsed. That's right, Ningxi, you did nothing wrong. You should have done this earlier. You were greedy for too long. You couldn't give up for too long. When Ningxi finally recovered and walked out, she was surprised to see a man standing quietly against the wall with a burnt cigarette in his hand. She didn't know how long he had been there. Jiangmai. Ningxi was stunned. Jiangmai exhaled a long smoke ring and chuckled. Just now, you said that the person you like very, very, very much is irreplaceable, no matter how good others are. That person is Lu Tingxiao, right? Ha! It's rare for someone as smart as Lu Tingxiao to make such a stupid mistake. Ningxi remained silent and did not speak. Jiangmai tilted his head and looked at Ningxi quietly. You rejected him, but you seem to be in a worse state. He had not seen her like this for a long time. The only time he saw her like this was on someone's death anniversary. At that time, she was in a similar state as she was now. Her whole body seemed to be wrapped in a dark swamp, and there was no light or vitality around her. Jiangmai suddenly didn't know what to say. He lit another cigarette impatiently. When he heard Ningxi rejected Lu Tingxiao, he didn't feel happy at all. Instead, he felt sad. He knew that Ningxi had completely fallen in love with Lu Tingxiao. However, even Lu Tingxiao didn't succeed. Who was he? A coward who didn't even dare to say, like. Jiangmai sighed and finally said the words that had been lingering in his heart for a long time. Ningxi, in fact, you don't have to do this. If you really like him, then let's be together. As soon as he finished speaking, he felt a sense of relief. Ningxi forced a smile. Jiangmai, you were the one who opposed it the most, weren't you? Jiangmai raised his eyebrows and said in a relaxed tone, I object to it because I don't want you to be my aunt. But you are my best friend after all. I hope you can be happy. With that, he looked at her seriously. Ningxi, I didn't believe that Lu Tingxiao was sincere before, but now, as long as he really likes you, he won't care about your identity, status, or profession, and he can protect you from being wronged. Ningxi's face gradually darkened. Jiangmai, you don't have to say anymore. How good would it be if it was just status and occupation? Whether it was identity, status, or occupation, as long as she was alive, she could change it. But what about what had happened in the past? How was she going to change? How was she going to change the fact that she was raped and gave birth to a bastard 5 years ago? Don't be afraid. I won't torture you. I promise I won't torture you. This is a necessary process. Ningxi must pass this hurdle. The devil will know Ningxi's feelings. Don't forget that there is a recording. Chapter 272. After Lu Tingxiao returned from the set, Lu Jingli knew that it was all over. The sky was going to fall. His brother was even scarier than when he had just taken over the company. At that time, his father had suddenly fallen seriously ill and was on the verge of death several times. All the branches of the family were eyeing the position of the successor, and some even tried to drive a wedge between the two brothers. The entire family was in a bloody mess. At that time, Lu Tingxiao was like an emotionless god of death. He was swift and decisive, and his methods were extremely harsh. He single-handedly put down the internal strife that almost toppled the entire Lu family. Now, Lu Tingxiao was like a beast that had been awakened from a deep sleep. His entire body was shrouded in a layer of dangerous, murderous aura. Lu Jingli wanted to comfort him, but Lu Tingxiao had chased away all the servants in the house and locked himself in the villa alone. He had set the highest level of clearance so that no one could enter the villa except him. Lu Jingli was afraid that something would happen to him. He was even afraid that he would blow up the house, so he kept pacing outside the door worriedly. He waited for an entire night. Lu Tingxiao still didn't come out. Furthermore, an even worse situation occurred. Early in the morning, Old Master Lu personally called him and asked him to go back to the old mansion immediately. He sounded very displeased. The Lu family's old residence. In the living room, Old Master Lu and Old Madam Lu were both sitting on the sofa. Their expressions were extremely ugly. The alarm in Lu Jingli's head was beeping happily. He reacted almost immediately to what might have happened. Sure enough, the next second, Old Master Lu threw a thick stack of documents at him. "You bastard. Explain to me what is going on?" White A4 papers and photos were scattered on the floor. Lu Jingli glanced at them. They were all photos and information about Ning Shi. Sure enough, Ning Shi's identity had been exposed. Sigh, why did it have to be at this time? When it rains, it pours. Old Madam Lu stared at her youngest son with a pained and angry expression. "Jingli, you really disappoint me. You can do whatever you want with other things, but this is your brother's marriage. How can you be so reckless and help your brother hide it from us? I thought it was some rich girl from a wealthy family. She's actually a lowly actress." His private life was also extremely chaotic. How can such a person be the daughter-in-law of the Lu family? How can she be the mother of my grandson? Old Master Lu slammed the table heavily. When he thought about how he had left Xiaobao in the care of this kind of person for the past few days, he broke out in a cold sweat and felt a lingering fear. What kind of aphrodisiac did that woman feed your brother? She can actually make someone as arrogant as Tingxiao fall for someone like her. Fortunately, we discovered it early. Otherwise, were you going to wait for the rice to be cooked before telling us? This is ridiculous. The two old men talked for half an hour, one after the other. Lu Jingli tried to explain at first, but he didn't say anything in the end. He sat leisurely on the sofa opposite him and counted the tea leaves in his cup in boredom. Old Madam Lu glared at her. "Brat, are you listening to us or not?" Lu Jingli put down his teacup and blinked. Are the two of you finished? Now, can you let your little son, who has been scolded badly, say a few words?" Old Master Lu snorted coldly. "All right, speak. I want to see what else you can say." Chapter 273. Lu Jingli straightened his collar and stood up. "First, profession. Being an actor is a legitimate profession. There is nothing shameful about it. The entertainment circle is a bit messy, but I can't overturn everyone. I'm the boss of Shangshi Entertainment. Now that you have investigated her, you should also know that Ning Shi has been honest and has never used any shameful means since she entered the industry. Otherwise, her face alone would have turned purple, and she would not still be a newcomer until today. Second, education. Before Ning Shi went abroad, she was admitted to the capital university as the top liberal arts scholar in City C. Later, she was forced to study abroad because she had a falling out with her family. She didn't receive any financial support from her family for 4 years and was admitted to the film school of NCCU with her own ability. Her grades were excellent, and she won scholarships every year. Why do you selectively ignore this? Third, private life. Every one of Ning Shi's boyfriends was a legitimate relationship. They were neither a third party, nor were they kept by rich businessmen. What on earth was wrong? You can accept that your son has had 800 girlfriends, but you can't accept that Ning Shi has had 8 boyfriends? Isn't this a bit too double standard? Let me remind you that it is the 21st century and men and women are equal. Fourth, birth and family background. The Ning family has become more and more unreliable in recent years. They don't want a real phoenix, but raise a pheasant as a treasure. But don't forget that Ning Shi's grandfather is Zhuang Zhengren. They broke up with her because Zhuang Lingyu insisted on marrying Ning Yaohua. But Ning Shi is his granddaughter. This is a fact that cannot be erased. Zhuang Zhongren's granddaughter is more than enough for our Lu family. You don't have any objections, do you? Old Master Lu and Old Madam Lu were both angry and didn't intend to listen to Lu Jingli's sophistry. But after hearing it, their expressions gradually changed. At this point, Lu Jingli paused. Fifth, I forgot to tell you the most important thing. What is it? Old Madam Lu hurriedly asked. Lu Jingli spread out his hands. The two of you are worrying for nothing. Just yesterday, Ningxi has already rejected my brother. So do what you have to do. Ningxi will not become your daughter-in-law, nor will she become your grandson's mother, nor will she have anything to do with our Lu family in the future. As soon as he finished speaking, there was an ear-piercing clang behind him. Lu Jingli and the two old men looked towards the source of the voice at the same time, and then they saw little Bao standing there with a ghastly pale face, and the ground beneath his feet was covered in glass shards. Xiao Bao. Before the two elders could go over to comfort him, Xiao Bao had already rushed into the house and slammed the door shut. Lu Jingli sighed. This is great. Jiang Mai sighed and looked worriedly at her, who pretended to be relaxed. Ningxi, are you really okay? Shall I accompany you for a drink tonight? Ningxi narrowed her eyes and waved her hand. Sorry, I don't have an appointment. I already have an appointment tonight. Fuck. I was just pitying you. You already have a date? Fortunately, Ningxi's scene today was a battlefield scene. Her face was as black as charcoal. Even if she didn't look good, no one would be able to tell. Otherwise, the shooting would definitely be delayed. Although she tried her best to concentrate, she still made several mistakes in the end. Several martial arts moves almost hurt someone. Fortunately, nothing serious happened. Ningxi knew that she had a serious problem. She couldn't go on like this. Otherwise, she wouldn't be able to continue filming. Chapter 275. Ever since Xiao Bao had overheard Lu Jingli's words, the two elders had been feeling uneasy. However, they heaved a sigh of relief when it was time for lunch. Xiao Bao opened the door and came out obediently. He obediently ate his meal, drank the soup, and even ate the fruits after eating. Everything seemed to be the same as usual. However, the little fellow's every move had always been full of vigor and vitality. At this moment, he was like a robot that was following instructions. After lunch, Xiao Bao took his drawing board and ran to the courtyard to draw. The two elders watched him secretly from afar. They wanted to see what the little fellow was drawing so that they could guess his mood. However, the little fellow just stared blankly and didn't move for the entire afternoon. I can tell with one look that our Xiao Bao is unhappy. Old Madam Lu's heart ached. Old Master Lu paced back and forth with his hands behind his back. He said in a low voice, "It's fine if it's completely severed. It's fine if it's just Tingxiao getting a wife. But because of Xiao Bao, we can't be careless. How can you be at ease leaving Xiao Bao in the hands of a woman like that?" But what Jingli said today makes sense. Perhaps that girl isn't as bad as we thought. Furthermore, she has taught Xiao Bao well. Didn't you say that she's good? I was fooled by those two rascals. Old Master Lu got angry at the mention of this. He gave his wife a warning look. Don't be soft-hearted. There's no room for discussion. The most important thing for you now is to hurry up and choose a suitable wife for Tingxiao so that he can give up on that woman. Choose what? You can choose if you want. My precious grandson is already like this. How can I be in the mood to do such useless things? What kind of words do I have to choose? Anyway, I'm not going. I want to accompany my grandson. Late at night. Filong Bay. A group of fashionably dressed young men were gathered together in groups of 3 to 5. One of them, a youth with short black hair, was particularly eye-catching. His entire face was drawn into an exaggerated skeleton, and his arms were tattooed with flowers. He wore a black earring on his left ear, and he was chewing gum while talking to the white-haired youth beside him. "Akka, is my car ready?" The white-haired young man called AKA patted the shiny motorcycle beside him. "It's ready. This is the one. Why don't you take a look? The skull-faced young man looked at the car pickily and said reluctantly, It's okay. It's not as handsome as my little black. Akka rolled his eyes. Come on, it's good enough that I can get you this much in one day. By the way, Shizi, where's your car? Where's little black? It was sent to be repaired. I can't get it now, the young man said perfunctorily. Her car was still at Lu Tingxiao's place. Given the current situation, it was really inconvenient for her to take it, so she had to borrow one. Akka nodded and clapped his hands, gesturing for everyone to look over. Is everyone here? Let me explain the rules of the competition. Starting from Wyvern Bay, the destination was Death Valley. The champion will be able to enjoy a night with our little princess Xiangxiang. Oh, the crowd burst into cheers. At this moment, a sexy woman in the crowd slapped the back of Kay's head. Bah, stinking rogue. One night stand. Dream on. Akka was still very happy after being hit. As if he had eaten honey, he laughed and said, Haha, it's just a joke. Let's do it again. The prize is a kiss from our little princess Xiangxiang. In addition, there's a prize of 50,000 yuan. Chapter 276. Akka grinned and moved closer to Xiangxiang Bela. Xiangxiang Bela, just you wait. Your kiss tonight will definitely be mine. Xiangxiang Bela rolled her eyes at him in disgust. Then, she twisted her waist and walked to the skull-faced youth. She clung onto his shoulder like a snake. Brother Shi, you can't lose. I hate those guys. I only like you. Actually, if the other party was Tang Shi, she would be more than happy to have sex for one night. Hey, Xiangxiang Bela, you're too biased. Why do you hate us and only like Shizi? The crowd began to protest. Xiangxiang Bela put her hands on her hips. Of course it's because brother Shi is the most handsome. Someone in the crowd was speechless. Fuck. Every time he plays with us, his face is painted like a ghost. How do you know if he's handsome or not? Xiangxiang Bela snorted. I just know. Handsome is not only about the face, but also the temperament. You bunch of uncouth men know nothing. Fine. We don't know. You, be careful. Shizi's face will be ugly one day and he'll cry. Maybe he'll be a woman after he's naked? Ha. You guys. Hearing those guys ridicule, Xiangxiang Bela stomped her feet in anger. She turned to the skull-faced youth who was familiarizing himself with the car. Brother Shi, torture them to death. The youth smiled and covered his eyebrows with his hand. Yes, my princess. Xiangxiang Bela was immediately stunned. She was so excited that she almost fainted. Oh, my brother Shi is so handsome. Akka gnashed his teeth in jealousy. Fuck. This brat only knows how to act cool. I'll teach you a lesson today. The first place will definitely be mine. After the group of people finished their banter, the midnight car race finally officially began. Xiangxiang Bela picked up the starting gun and stood at the starting point. Everyone, ready, start. Accompanied by a bang sound, all the motorcycles rushed out at lightning speed. Brother Shi, come on. I'll be waiting for you in Death Valley. Death Valley, as the name suggested, was a place with a high incidence of traffic accidents due to its narrow and steep terrain. However, it was also a paradise for many fearless extreme sports enthusiasts. Ningxi knew this group of people because she had a car race with them when she first returned to the country. In the end, they became friends after a fight. These people were all from the same racing club. Ningxi didn't join it, but she didn't go racing with her many times. However, as she became busier and busier at work, and later met Xiaobao and Lu Tingxiao, she had less and less need to use this extreme and dangerous method to vent and ease her mood. Therefore, it had been a long time since she had come out to play with them, until tonight. Changing her name to Tang Shi and disguising herself as a man were both for convenience, especially in her current situation. She had to be extra careful when doing such things. The sound of the car engine rattled her eardrums, and the strong wind gave her the illusion that her soul was about to fly away. All the burdens that had been suppressing her and suffocating her were released at this moment. Even if it was just a moment of relief and peace, she couldn't help but chase after it like a moth to a flame. I'll be going first. Aka's car buzzed and drifted past her at the corner. The corners of Ningxi's mouth rose a little. She didn't take it seriously and continued to drive at her own pace, maintaining the second place. Until the last lap. It was also the most dangerous lap. Chapter 277. Ningxi lowered her body, turned the handle, and suddenly sped up. At the steepest corner, she brushed the edge of the cliff and narrowly overtook Aka. Fuck. This lunatic. She really wants to die. Aka cursed in a low voice, exasperated. There was no suspense in the final result. No matter how powerful she was, she couldn't win against someone who wanted to die. At the finish line, Xiangxiang happily held the trophy and prize money like a little bird and threw herself into Ningxi's arms. She pursed her red lips and kissed Ningxi. Ningxi was not bashful. She smiled and took the initiative to let her kiss her. However, at the moment when she kissed her, she slightly moved her position. So, the fragrant kiss did not fall on her lips, but fell on her cheek with a smack. Xiangxiang blushed and stamped her feet in dissatisfaction. Brother Shi, you are so annoying. Aka, who was next to her, watched his goddess kissing someone else. He was so angry that his eyes turned red, and he threw his helmet. Damn it, how can you kiss this face? Xiangxiang ignored him, took Ningxi's arm, and said coquettishly, Brother Shi, we also have an activity tomorrow night. Do you want to join us? No, you guys go ahead. Ningxi declined. Xiangxiang looked disappointed, and then curiously asked the question that she had always cared about. Brother Shi, I feel that you are so mysterious. What are you busy with every day? What do you do for a living? It's a secret. Ningxi gave a mysterious and evil smile, then waved her hand and turned to leave. Looking at that elegant back view, Xiangxiang Bela, who was behind him, had a look of infatuation on her face. He was really handsome. He was the first man who was not interested in her honey trap. She must get him. Returning to the hotel in the early morning, Ningxi almost fell asleep as soon as she fell asleep. Although she had only slept for more than 3 hours in the morning, she was much more energetic than yesterday. Today was still a fierce battlefield fight scene, and there was also a big night scene. Ningxi performed perfectly from beginning to end, without any mistakes. When they finished, Hua Qixing was very satisfied. Not bad, Ningxi. You are much better today than you were 2 days ago. At this rate, we can definitely catch up. Ningxi was a little relieved. I will try my best to maintain it. Back at the hotel, Jiang Mai looked at her several times like a dog. Ningxi punched him angrily. Are you crazy? You're making me dizzy. Did you really become a golden retriever? Jiang Mai narrowed his eyes. Ning Xiaoxi, tell me the truth. Where did you go last night? Why are you acting like you're on steroids today? Let's sleep. What can I do? Nonsense. I rang your doorbell at 1:00 last night. You weren't in your room at all. Holy shit. Why did you ring my doorbell so many times? Don't change the subject. Ningxi, you didn't do anything illegal, did you? Chapter 278. The Liu family's old residence. In the evening, under the sunset glow, Xiaobao sat motionlessly in front of the easel, his small figure looking especially lonely and pitiful. Xiaobao, come over for dinner. Grandma made your favorite squirrel-shaped mandarin fish. Xiaobao, Xiaobao. Old Madame Liu called him 5 or 6 times before Xiaobao finally responded. The little boy tidied up the easel meticulously, looked in the direction he had been looking at all afternoon, and then went into the house obediently. On the dining table, the table was filled with all kinds of dishes. There were all kinds of Chinese and Western cuisines. Xiaobao, eat more. These are all your favorites. Yeah, eat more. Come, Grandpa will help you. Xiaobao looked at the dishes on the table blankly, picked up his chopsticks, and picked up the nearest dish. Then, he lowered his head and began to eat, without any coaxing. Seeing that Xiaobao was so obedient, the 2 old men heaved a long sigh of relief. Old Master Lu glanced at his wife discreetly and said, I told you it would be fine. That night, Xiaobao ate a lot, even more than usual, and seemed to have a good appetite. 3 days passed peacefully, and nothing happened. Old Master Lu was very happy, and Old Madam Lu was finally completely relieved. However, on that night, a servant's panicked shout came from Xiaobao's room. Old Master, Old Madam, bad news. Young Master, come and take a look. What's the commotion? What's wrong? The two hurried over. Then, they saw Xiaobao bending over and vomiting all over the floor. He threw up everything he had eaten that night, and he was still vomiting acid. Old Madam Lu quickly patted him on the back. Xiaobao. What's wrong with Xiaobao? Why is he vomiting so badly all of a sudden? Old Master Lu forced himself to calm down. He's just a kid. What's wrong with vomiting occasionally? Maybe it's just indigestion. Don't make a fuss. However, as soon as he said that, the little boy's body went limp and he fainted. Xiaobao, Old Madam Lu screamed. This time, even Old Master Lu could no longer stay calm. He turned pale with fright and shouted at the servants, What are you waiting for? Get the doctor. For a moment, the whole old house was in a mess. Old Madam Lu hugged the pale-faced Xiaobao and was so anxious that she almost lost her soul. She could not stop complaining to Lu Chongshan. It's all your fault for saying that everything is fine. Now it's all good. Are you going to torment my grandson to death before you're satisfied? So what if Ting Xiao is interested in that woman? She alone can make our Xiaobao happy. Even if she's a beggar on the street, I'm willing to let her in. You. What are you talking about? What about me? Am I wrong? I only want my precious grandson to be well. Xiaobao was so good before. He had recovered, but now it had become like this. My heart is about to break. Am I not sad? I'm doing this for Xiaobao's future. Now that I'm dead, what future do I have? Old Madam Lu seemed to have thought of something as she said. She hurriedly ordered the servant beside her. Xiao Rong, bring me the young master's drawing paper. Yes, madam. I'll go right away. The maid quickly brought over Xiaobao's painting from the afternoon. The two elders hurriedly looked at it carefully. They saw that Xiaobao's drawing was blank. But when they got closer, they saw a line of words written in pencil in the middle of the canvas. Aunt Xiaoxi Xiaobao is obedient. Why don't you want Xiaobao? Old Madam Lu could no longer hold back her tears after reading it. How is Xiaobao fine? He's forcing himself to be obedient. He clearly can't eat, but he's forcing himself to eat. He clearly wants to make a scene like before, but he's forcing himself to be obedient, just because he promised him to be obedient. Aren't you afraid of suffocating yourself to death? Lu Jingli put the documents in his arms on the table and hurriedly pulled the curtains to open the windows. Lu Tingxiao leaned back in his chair, his expression hidden in the shadows. The cigarette between his fingers had burned to the end, almost burning his fingers. The lunch and dinner sent by the secretary were still on the coffee table. None of them had been touched. Lu Jingli sneaked a peek at Lu Tingxiao as he put down the documents. From the corner of his eyes, he caught a glimpse of a stack of documents beside Lu Tingxiao's hand. They were all about the Jiang family. Chapter 280. Lu Jingli turned pale with fright. Oh my God. Was his brother going to mess with the Jiang family? Was he really going to disown them? Even if the Jiang family was not related to them by blood, they were still related to Jiang Mai's mother. His parents doted on the daughter of their old friend very much. However, Lu Jingli thought about it carefully and felt that something was wrong. Given his brother's character, if he really wanted to do something to the Jiang family and Jiang Mai, he would have done it long ago. It was impossible that nothing had happened in 3 days. What was going on? What's the matter? A cold voice suddenly sounded in the air. Lu Jingli shivered and came back to his senses. He hurriedly said, Yes, yes. Mom and Dad just called and said that Xiaobao is not feeling well. They want you to go back as soon as possible. Lu Tingxiao pinched the cigarette between his fingers and lit another one. Get the car ready. Okay. Lu Jingli quickly slipped out, his heart rejoicing. Fortunately, his brother was not so inhumane that he would not even recognize his own son. In the old house of the Lu family, old Madame Lu was pacing anxiously outside the door. As soon as she saw Lu Tingxiao, she immediately went up to him. Tingxiao, you're finally back. Go and see Xiao Bao. Lu Chongshan looked dissatisfied. You still know to come back. Xiao Bao is sick, but you don't answer your phone. You can't reach him. Do you deserve to be his father? Lu Tingxiao's pale and sickly face was emotionless. He said calmly, Didn't you find me a woman? I can let those women take care of me. Lu Chongshan's eyes widened. You bastard. Is that what you say? Xiao Bao is his son. You don't take care of him, but you expect strangers to take care of him? Lu Jingli coughed and couldn't help muttering, Dad, can you be reasonable? It was you who insisted on finding strangers to take care of Xiao Bao. My brother found a reliable girl to take care of Xiao Bao. It was you who didn't trust my brother's taste. Now my brother agreed to let you choose, but you're still not satisfied. What do you want? You. Lu Chongshan couldn't say a word. At last, his face changed. You brat, I was almost tricked by you. He didn't have the ability to pursue her. How can you blame me? I've been discovered. Lu Jingli rubbed his nose, then rolled his eyes and said, But, you mean, as long as my brother has the ability to woo her, you won't object? Lu Chongshan snorted, Don't try to play tricks with me. Hurry up and take a look at Xiao Bao. What happened to Xiao Bao? Where do you feel uncomfortable? Lu Jingli asked. Old Madame Lu wiped her tears. It's probably because that woman has been teaching him to listen to us, so he's been very obedient these days. He eats and rests normally without any abnormalities. Until today, not long after dinner, Xiao Bao suddenly vomited everything he ate and fainted. As old Madame Lu spoke, she took out a piece of drawing paper, and her tears fell even harder. Later, when I saw the words on this drawing of Xiao Bao, I realized that he was not fine at all, but had been enduring it all along. Lu Jingli took the drawing paper and glanced at it. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, then he burst into tears. Fuck. I, Xiao Bao, am too pitiful. A motherless child is like a blade of grass. That's right. My heart aches. The mother and son hugged each other and cried. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.